Obviously, it would be a waste of time for a geek to go through every single element, so we're not going to do that. So let's continue on. So that's all we have to say about links. We're ready for the JavaScript portion of this HTML5 lesson with JavaScript. The next step that I want to do is I want to create some JavaScript. I'm just going to, excuse me for that. All right, so let's start creating JavaScript. Now, the first step that I want to do inside of my JavaScript area is literally what I want to do is I want to create here some sort of action. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a JavaScript area. And the JavaScript area is defined with the script tag. Here we go. So we have our script tag, and here we're going to put our JavaScript. So how about we just put a most basic thing, which is alert. And that's going to be our first thing we do in JavaScript. But literally what we'll do, we'll open up an alert box. So as soon as we go into our page and click on refresh, we should get an alert saying hello world. We'll click OK. Our application will continue loading. Obviously, this was a silly application. I'm going to comment that out so we could build something a little bit more fancy. So to build something a little bit more fancy, what I'm going to do is I want to add here, this site needs you to have, please enable it. That's copy I put in here before, but I'm going to put in the line right underneath here, click here to change the color. All right, and I'm going to bound it in an H tag because I want it to be clickable. And what I'm going to do next is what I want to do is I want to add here a JavaScript call. So I'm just going to type your JavaScript colon and type your what I want it to call. And I want to call a function. Don't worry too much about what functions are if you don't know what they are. If you want to learn more about JavaScript, take our JavaScript course. You could find it at zerotogeek.com. All right, that was said. So in that JavaScript, I'm just going to call a function which we're going to call change BG. I'm going to open and close round bracket and semicolon. Now I'm not going to go into the details of why it works this way. It just works this way, and it's going to be something you're just going to have to trust me on this one unless you take our JavaScript course, because I just want you to be familiar, but we just don't have time to dig too much deep into the world of JavaScript. And I'm going to create a function which basically stores all the commands that that my change BG owns. Now, just as much as we had our CSS, is basically it's just a way to define a place where an action is going to happen. So a function is an action, and to trigger an action, we want to call it. So basically what we're saying is whenever we click on this button, we want to call that change BG. Now we just want to test and see that it works, so I'm just going to click on save. Now if it does work, when we click on our link, we should get an alert box, that alert box that we saw earlier. So let's find that, where is that copy? Let's see. It should be around the top here somewhere. This site. Oh, here we go. So I'm going to just click here to change color. And here we go. We got our alert. We're happy. We see that we have the connection. Now that we have the connection, I'm just going to comment that alert box again. And instead of putting an alert, what I want to do is I want to change the background color of our application. So to do that, what I need to do is I need to travel through the document. The document is basically the way I approach things in JavaScript. And what I'm saying is I want to go to my HTML document, I want to go to my body, and in my body I want to change its style. And what style do I want to change? I want to change the background. So I'm literally just traveling through the document, from the document into the body, into the style of that document, into its background, and all that's left for me to do is to set here a specific color that I want. Now if I just put one color, obviously, when by the way it needs to be a string, so I'm going to open and close a comment or a double quote or a quote, not comment, I'm going to quote or double quote, and I'm just going to paste one of the, I'm going to pick here a new color, that blue that we had earlier. So that's going to turn into our background. I'm going to paste it right there, and I'm going to save it. And now if we go back into our application and click on refresh, but this time around when we click on the click here to change, we're just going to give this a second to load. Alright, so when we click on it, it should turn blue, and it does. Now we have only one last thing to cover before we wrap up this course on, well, almost the course, but before we wrap up our JavaScript topic. And that is, how do we put this into an external file? Again, you might have a lot of times where you even have JavaScript, you don't know what it does, but you're using it on a lot of pages. it's not a good thing to waste space. It's not a good thing to make the user load more than they need to. So it's always a great idea to externalize the files whenever you can. So to do that, I'm gonna again create a new file, and I'm gonna quickly do it because this is I'm gonna just quickly create here a new file. If I find the new file, here we go. And that didn't work. Again, for some reason I have to do it twice, but hopefully that bug will be fixed soon. I'm going to create a new file again. And in that new file, I'm just going to click on to create a new file. I'm going to call this script.js. And again, .js is because that's the file type for JavaScript files. So for HTML, it was .html, for CSS, .css, for JavaScript.css. I'm going to click on save that. And I'm going to just refresh the page one more time and open up the script tag. And it's time for me to copy my JavaScript. So I'm just going to go ahead and just copy all this code, and I'm going to put it right inside of my JavaScript area into my script.js file. And I'm just going to lay it out a little bit more nicely. And I'm going to save that file. So now we have our script tag, it's saved. What I want to do now is I'm going to comment out my code without deleting it, because you might want to use it. So the way I do that is with the slash and then star, and then I close it with a star slash, basically saying that from here until here I want it to be unused. I don't want nothing to be inside of here. I'm going to click on save, and now the JavaScript portion is not going to work. If I go inside of my lesson 4 and I click on refresh again and I try to click on it, it's not going to work, and it's also indicating that I have an error up here because I have the developer, the Firebug developer tool, which shows me that I have an error. Okay. So with that said, I'm going to go back into my application, and in my script tag, now that we disconnected it, it's time for me to connect it again by using the script source attribute. And with the source attribute, I'm going to say where the file is. Because we're in the same folder, I'm just going to type your script.js. And I'm going to click on save. Once I do that and I click on refresh, it should link with that JavaScript file that we've just created, and now when I click on it, the background will change. So there we go. That's everything I had to talk about in lesson 5, which covered quite a lot. So we've been through a lot until now. I have a couple more things to talk about before we wrap up this course, so we'll see you in the next lesson.